there was a helicopter crash off of Barbers Point
Yeah.
where everyone died.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that story thinking how unfortunate that is for first responders and rescuers to go down in that manner. Were you supposed to be on that helicopter?
No, I wasn't supposed to be on that helicopter. I wasn't here yet. I was actually on that 210-foot ship when that happened. I remember the day it happened. The captain of the ship called all of us together and he said, hey, something really bad happened and I'm gonna tell you guys about it. And I just remember thinking, whoa, that's my path. That's what I wanna do right now. And all those guys just died, you know?
On a training mission?
It was on a training mission. Yeah, it was on a routine nighttime training mission. I want to say they put the basket down to the boat. The basket's connected to a cable. Mm-hmm. Conditions were pretty rough. The basket or the cable wrapped around something on the boat. It pulled down the boom that was holding the cable to the basket. And then when the cable snapped, the boom hit the blades. Oh. For a second, they were in control. They said, okay, we're in control. There was definitely differing opinions in the helicopter of what some people thought should be done. And they made the wrong decision to go up to 500 feet and try and fly back home. They were still in control, but it came apart at that point
because there was damage from the boom.
Yeah.
Wow. What could have been an alternative option?
Yeah, policies were put into place after that, and our procedures changed. So now, if something like that happens, we call it, we have emergency procedures for almost every scenario. And unfortunately, a lot of those scenarios are based on mistakes that were made in real cases. Mm-hmm. So now for, I want to say it's intolerable vibrations, you land or ditch the helicopter immediately. Mm-hmm. We have floats on the helicopter. Mm-hmm. We're trained to get out of a helicopter that's flipped underwater with our eyes closed. Mm-hmm. So that offers us our best chance of survival. Everything we do, every mission that we take, every training mission that we take, we evaluate risk and gain. Mm-hmm. And if the risk outweighs the gain, there's no mission. The gain has to outweigh the risk. So now, even with that sort of situation, like there is gain to putting a helicopter in the water.
Understood.
And to everyone trying their best to get it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So they tried to fly up and head back, but there's too much damage in which the procedure now is you'd probably just go straight to the water.
Yeah. Yep.
And float.
Pop the floats, put it in the water, put the brake on so the blades don't chop up, and turn off the electrical, turn off the fuel, get out of the plane.
Wow, that is very, very heavy. So Coast Guard, I do see a lot of those helicopters, and they're really cool looking, appearing anyway. Yeah. The white and orange. You see them doing training missions up and down the coast. Yeah. How many different types of aircraft are in a Coast Guard? So right now we have 2 different types of helicopters, but we're kind of phasing out the one that you see out here. Mm-hmm. So we have the MH-65 Dolphin, which is it's a smaller, we call it like it's like our short range search and rescue helicopter. Mm-hmm. It can only fly about 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And then we have the 60, which most people know it as a Black Hawk. We call it a Jayhawk. Mm-hmm. And that helicopter can fly, I want to say close to 5 hours. Wow. I was never on that helicopter, but that one is basically taking over. Like we should have it in the Hawaiian Islands too, because we're always island hopping. So by the time we get to the big island in our small helicopter, we got to go get gas and then go and proceed to our mission. Okay. So we're working on getting those bigger helicopters, hopefully out here soon. So those guys can have it. And then we have C-130s. And then we have a few other fixed wing aircrafts that were, I think, kind of duds that we're just phasing out. Because I've seen like Coast Guard like airplanes.
Yeah. Yeah. We
phasing them out?
Yeah. We had we called them Falcons, and it was a business jet that they turned into a search and rescue asset. That's the other thing about the Coast Guard is like we're like the redheaded stepchild of the military, where they're like, oh shoot, we forgot to fund the Coast Guard. Like,
Take this FedEx plane.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like that all the time. Like the Navy will give us their old helicopters. Because we're like, oh, you only put 10,000 hours on that thing? They're like, we can run that thing for 30 more years.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally like the mindset.
Tell me this. How is the Coast Guard looked at in terms of a branch of the military to the Navy guy, the Marines? And are they like,
they make fun of us a lot,
Yeah.
for sure. I always thought it was funny because I'm just like, this is a job for me. And like, I do like, and I know what I do. But definitely, like a lot of people, they joke around. They call it the puddle pirates because we don't go far out. We don't go far out.
Yeah.
We're just right on the coast.
But without the Coast Guard, who do you got?
I mean, yeah, there's other search and rescue
Like HFD
agencies. Yep,
They have it.
HFD is amazing. Yep.
So what's jurisdiction wise,
Yeah.
responsibility wise? If where does the Coast Guard come in, and where does HFD come in when it comes to search and rescue?
That's a good question, and the really simple answer is like what I tell people is if it's over 5 miles out and it's at night, we're gonna do it. Like that's kind of like that's definitely not any sort of policy written there like that, but that's just kind of how it washes out. Like HFD is really, really good about just picking people up out of the water with their helicopter or off cliffs. They're really, really good and efficient at it. We're a little bit slower. We have a much larger aircraft, and we have a much larger crew. They run with a single pilot, I think, most of the time, and they'll pick up one qualified HFD swimmer.
Yeah.
So they're fast. But us, we have 4 people. When we get a case, we go up to the operations center. We talk about the case, decide, 9 times out of 10, we're going to accept the case. And then we go and we execute it.
How many people fit in that helicopter?
It depends. It depends on how much fuel we have in the helicopter. It depends on how much weight we have in the helicopter. There's been times, I haven't done this, but where we throw everything out of the helicopter because there's people that we need to get out of the water. So we just throw everything out of the helicopter and put more people inside.
Wow, whatever it takes, right?
Whatever it takes.
Saving the life is the most important.
Yes.
So I've heard a situation, because I was doing some research, watching some different Coast Guards talk about their experiences, and there's some fascinating stuff that has happened, and some very selfless acts of courage that I've seen or heard about. There's this one situation where the Coast Guard was responding somewhere in really deep waters at night, and there were multiple people to save. And the rescue swimmer went down, brought everyone up one by one, and then there wasn't space for the rescue swimmer. So they just knew, rescue swimmer, I'm going back in the water. There's another helicopter coming to pick me up. And that helicopter that the rescue swimmer was in went back to shore. And this guy waited for a couple of hours in the middle of the ocean with a beacon or something.
Oh yeah, that's kind of normal. I've never done it, but it's definitely happened a handful of times to guys in the shop with me. Because you put 4 people in the cabin, we cannot have any more people. The helicopter is not strong enough.
Wow.
The helicopter is too weak. So we're gonna stay.
Yeah.
We're trained.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay. And yeah, it's normal. It's normal. Yeah.
And so you just have something that
So the helicopter will go ahead and mark your position, deploy a raft, and probably just turn on your radio and you're just out there. We call it our raft is called the Shark Taco.
The Shark Taco.
Yeah. It's just this little yellow raft, and it looks just like a taco, and there's like a red stripe down the middle of it. And it's about 4 feet long, so we have to go cross-leg inside.
Yeah.
And there's a little zipper that you zip up to keep the elements off of you, and you just put your EPIRB on, and you just hope that they find you. Yeah.
I'm sure there were instances where they weren't found. Or it might be rare, but I mean,
there were instances where the swimmer was left out too long and almost died.
Okay.
For sure.
I mean, what if the swells are surging?
Yeah.
There has to be super gnarly conditions out there.
It gets gnarly out there. It gets gnarly out there in the open water, especially like when the winds are over 25 miles per hour sustained. You go out 5, 6, 7 miles, 10 miles, 30, 40 miles, and the swells, they're, 12 to 15 feet, and they're breaking regularly. So you put yourself in that situation for 4 or 5 hours, like no matter how trained you are, like something's going to give eventually, We had a guy who, I just heard the story, but he got left on scene during a hurricane and the helicopter couldn't get him. They couldn't get the raft to him. They left him on scene and they didn't get to him for a really long time. I can't remember how long it was, but it was hours.
Did he survive?
He survived, but he thought he was gonna die.
Of course.
He thought he was gonna die. Yeah. And there's been a lot of situations where like I thought I was gonna die for a second.
Like what?
The gnarliest one is when I first got back to Hawaii. We just moved back from North Carolina, and I was actually doing my requalification syllabus, and it was one of my last flights. I think it was my last flight. I was just going to go to the front of a Coast Guard boat. So it was just got dark. And so I'm getting hoisted down, and the plan was I was just gonna go down to the boat, touch the boat, high five the guy, pretend to do a scenario real quick, and then go right back up, never disconnect. There was a miscommunication in the helicopter, so I go down to the front of the boat. They thought I was gonna disconnect. And so as soon as the helicopter puts the swimmer down onto a boat and the swimmer disconnects, it's in the best interest for the helicopter to go back and high, because it's a much safer place for that helicopter to be and they could watch us. So they went to go back and high, but I was still connected to the cable. And I just remember like corner of my eye watching the cable from the deck go like, and just thinking, I'm too late to do anything. And it just I'm connected to my harness, and it just boom, it just grabbed me. And I flew from the front of the boat into the back guardrails on the boat. We call it the fantail. And my back just connected with it, like my back right here, and it just bop, and I hit the ground. Thank God they paid out cable. They paid out so much cable because they realized it instantly. And I was on the ground, and so much adrenaline hit me that I just stood back up, and everyone on the boat looked at me like dead man walking, like, and they were like a guy came up to me and he like grabbed me. He's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good." It was just like that. There's so much adrenaline, and then I just give the thumbs up, and I go into the helicopter, and I'm like, "Am I okay?" Like, you know, when you get so hurt and you don't know how hurt you are.
I don't know like that.
That was my worst one.
This one time I stubbed my toe. And I didn't notice for a little bit. No, but I can't imagine, because that's the kind of adrenaline that you could break your back and then you go up there and then you realize, 10 minutes later, like, oh my God.
Oh, and it's happened before. I thought I might have broke my back. Yeah. Okay. I didn't, thank God. But I definitely got like, I have scar tissue all along that side of my back because of that. And those are the kind of injuries that might revisit you later in life. They do. Yeah, they do. It just did. I was on my ass the past couple days because I took the kids to the obstacle course at the Waikai, and I thought I was like 25 again, and I was like climbing the ropes with the kids, and then the next day I went to go move, and it was just like what? And I was like, oh my God. Was that the injury from that? Yeah, same spot. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that one still haunts me. That was my worst. That was like my closest like faces of death. Yeah. Wow. I mean, that could have been Final Destination type shit, It was close.